This is Dr. Sutherland, and I am so glad you're joining me. Welcome to our new Tuesday morning show. We have officially moved from Monday mornings to Tuesday mornings in 2018 from 10 a.m. to noon. And on this show, we are all about building strong family relationships, spousal relationships, parent-child relationships, siblings, mothers and daughters, grandparents, extended family. And we're also about helping you to increase your understanding and awareness of emotional and mental wellness issues that you may be struggling with or that someone you love may be struggling with. And our goal is to make sure that your family has the tools that they need to help them be as solid as they can in their own personal, emotional, and mental wellness. And if you've listened to the show before, you will have heard me say that family is the first and the primary place where we gain a sense of who we are. It's the place where we gain our sense of belonging, and it's innately built into us. And when folks don't really find that sense of belonging in their family of origin, they look for it any place else that they can find it. And even if that place is the worst place that they can look for it, it starts as early as elementary and middle school. So now fast forward, and we're adults and in adult relationships, and sometimes people who have struggled in their family of origins struggle to build healthy and strong relationships. And so today, I decided that we needed to talk about keys to stronger family relationships in 2019, because strong families don't just happen. They are intentionally worked for, and there is nothing else in our society that impacts our lives and the direction of our lives, whether that's good or bad, than what our family looks like. Who we are with our spouses, who we are with our children, what we teach our children, all of that has impact for generations. And so in the studio today, we have Chris and Emma Donaldson. Did I say that right? And they are newlyweds. You guys have been married for how many months?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, we're fresh. Real fresh.
They are fresh, and they will be sharing principles that they are learning as they are embarking on this journey that are tied directly to the outcome that we're talking about today. How to build a strong family that can weather the storms of life and not sink when they come. And so we'll also be talking about emotional intelligence and the role that it will play in a person's ability to be as effective as possible in developing strong family relationships. One of the things that really strikes me, and I'll ask you, Emma and Chris, to talk about this. One of the things that really strikes me is that we spend so much time and money preparing for career, preparing to be athletes. My daughter is an athlete, a track athlete, and she spends hours and hours on the track. We spend years and years in school. How many years did you spend becoming a therapist? You're a therapist.
Yes, I spent 3 years in school and 4 years before that.
Okay, all right. And what do you do for a living, Chris?
I do cybersecurity consulting.
Okay, that sounds really, really fancy. How long did you spend preparing for that? Other than elementary and middle and high school.
4 years of college
and then college.
Lots of on-the-job training.
Yeah.
Lots of advanced training.
Comparatively speaking, did you spend that much time preparing for knowing how to build a strong marriage?
No.
Yeah. And that's something that really gets me, because family is the cornerstone of our society. Mm-hmm. When we see breakdowns in society, it's because people don't understand how to engage in healthy relationship with not just intimate relationship, but relationships in any sphere of life. And they learn that stuff in family, right?
Right.
And so it just really strikes me that there is not that level of preparation that we think about on an overall societal level. And so talk to us a little bit about how you embarked on, what your preparation was like, and then once you got married, what this journey has been like as you have thought about how do we build a strong relationship?
Yeah, so I'll start. We knew that it would be important to go see a therapist while we were considering getting married. Mm-hmm. And so we actually decided to do that before we got engaged. Okay. Our rationale was once we're engaged, it's probably too late. And so we decided to see a marriage and family therapist for a few sessions before we made the decision to get engaged. Mm-hmm. And that was very impactful for us.
What led to that actual decision? Because That's not typical.
Very not typical.
Yeah.
I was about to say that. Kudos. That no one does that.
Yeah, even before deciding
right.
to get married. We're
Right.
not talking about premarital counseling. Once you get engaged and then you do the premarital counseling before you get married. You're saying before you even decided that you wanted to get engaged, or at least said, here's the ring, you decided to do that.
Yeah, I'll answer for myself, and then I'll let Chris answer. A lot of it had to do with my training as a therapist, to be honest. While I was in grad school, learning about what breaks marriages apart and seeing the lack of preparation before. And oftentimes people who probably weren't great fits or didn't need to get married got married anyway.
Yeah.
And so it just made sense to me before we made the decision to seek that wise counsel to really hash things out and talk through our family dynamics, our family of origin, before making that decision to create our own.
Yeah.
So I would say grad school was very influential in that decision for me.
Yeah, yeah. And even before you said that, here's the thing. Most of us aren't counselors. Most people don't have that background
right.
to
Right.
say, okay, this is how I know I should do that.
Right.
Yeah, Chris.
So it just made the most sense for me. So I was for a very long time I was not against. I had tried therapy many moons ago, and it didn't. I mean, it wasn't my cup of tea. And I was struggling with my own personal demons at the time, and we weren't even dating at the time, or we may have just started dating. I forget, but
We were friends, and I recommended he go see a therapist. He went one time and was like, "Oh, that doesn't work. It's too expensive."
yeah. So I started going back to therapy, maybe beginning of 2017, maybe April, May of 2017, and so with that context, it just made the most sense to. So I fully intended to marry her, regardless. We're going through pre-engagement. I fully intended to marry her. That's why we were going to pre-engagement therapy, or pre-engagement counseling, and it was very important to me that it was more so that we identify what our stumbling blocks are going to be before we even get into a season of being betrothed or almost married, right? The intention for me was not going to pre-engagement counseling to figure out if she's someone I need to be marrying. I knew I wanted to marry her. It was, in order to do that and for that to be successful, what are we going to have to overcome? What am I going to have to overcome specifically?
Yeah.
Like what am I bringing to the table, across the board that I'm going to have to deal with? And so that was even though I was in my own individual therapy on the side, that was a key input for me to continue to work on my own stuff personally, which is just now, starting to get on. It was just now starting to get resolved over. It's been a year right since that. So I can't imagine starting that process after we get when we got married.
Yeah.
Right. That would have been terrible. No, it would have made the first 6 months, a year of marriage, just this gigantic trial and error of me, with me playing the game one hand tied behind my back. It would have been awful.
And so I love what you said, that the process was for you to figure out what you were bringing to the table to be able to, that would get in the way. And so that is so different than the two of you saying, what's going to get in the way, and finding it in our spouse or in our potential mate, right? What are you bringing to the table that's going to get in the way of us? But it's more, what am I bringing to the table? And that's talking about self-awareness. It's talking about knowing who I am as an individual before I even get into the we, the us, becoming one. It's like, who am I? Yeah. What was the most difficult part of that for either of you?
I think for me, the most difficult part was realizing that as we were kind of working through family of origin stuff, that you truly do leave your family and he leaves his family and we create a family. and seeing that that is healthy and that is how it's supposed to go, and it's hard. And knowing that and seeing that it would be a process, it wouldn't happen overnight. You don't just get married and then your family's created. It's very much a process. That I would say that was probably one of the most challenging parts, but it's also been one of the most rewarding because it's caused us to grow. We've had to be very intentional about that. We don't just let it happen to us.
Yeah.
We're proactive. So,
That speaks to planning.
yes.
So how much planning? So everybody gets married and is in love, and love will cure all. And love is the thing that you need to make your marriage work.
So I'm gonna talk to that. So we have a very unique, sometimes we have a very unique experience when it comes to love. I mean, both of us, when we were dating, we confirmed the other one. We've never been head over heels, goo goo gaga, like losing their mind in
Gaze
love.
in your eyes.
Yes, we just never been that.
Yeah.
We were friends for 4 years before we even started dating, and to get us from friends to dating was this uphill battle. Both sides of it.
Yeah.
And even when we first started dating, we were both like, "Are we sure we wanted to be doing this?" So, and that being said, like our friendship when we transitioned, it was never like, "Oh, I just one day woke up and found her just gorgeous, and sun shining behind her head, and this halo on." And,
Wait, seriously?
that never happened. Sorry to spoil it. But that just, like I said, that wasn't our experience, and so at least for me, when I decided that I wanted to marry her, it was. I remember very clearly. I was talking to my therapist, and we were talking, and I realized that Emma was safe to love. Like she was safe to give my heart over to, and she would be able to hold it and not drop it. And that's been always a big thing for me of feeling like someone can take care of my heart, can take care of me, like all of the me. And so our love has always been a decision from pretty much from day one. There are times. Don't get me wrong. There are times when it's very romantic, and there are times where we are in love. But we recognize probably at a very early point that being in love is a feeling that comes and goes. But loving is a decision. And so for us, our marriage is characterized by that. We are striving for our marriage to consistently be characterized by that.
Yeah.
By that daily decision to love.
Yeah. So you talk about something very healthy. You said that you came to the point where you realized that Emma was safe to love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really important.
It is.
It sounds like you considered a lot of different things. It sounds like you considered, what does safety mean for me? It sounds like you considered, how do I know that if I give my heart to this person, they're not going to crush it?
Right.
And I'm thinking about that. That is not something necessarily that a lot of folks will think through. Is this person safe for me to love?
Right.
And what are the things that you consider? How do you know? If somebody listening is in a relationship and trying to decide, or has been in relationships and been hurt before, whatever, what would you say to them to think about? How do you know and decide if somebody is safe to love? What should they look for?
So when I said safe to love, the way I think about it is, so if I cup my hands, right, and I pour all the things that I delight in, all of the things that I treasure about me, about my, my emotions, the things I take joy in, the things that really light me up on the inside, and I were to hand that over to Emma or whomever, right? If I were to hand that over to somebody, would they be able to take care of that and hold it and appreciate it as much as I appreciate it? Would they be able to protected as much as I protect it? And would they want to see that be as, successful and flourish as much as I want it to? And if we were to treat, the innermost preciousness of, myself, if she were to treat the innermost preciousness of myself the same way that I would treat it, or better in some cases, then she's safe to love. Because at that point, regardless of if it's just a crap day, like that core, like at the bottom is safe. Like there's a foundational safety net of, we can always go back down to the bottom, which is she fundamentally cherishes, protects all, like who I am fundamentally. She wants that to flourish. And so even like in the midst of an argument, which is like peripheral, it's pretty peripheral to even to whatever's going on, the bottom is still solid in that case, which is always a safety net for me in terms of like our relationship.
And so if someone wanted to say, well, what were some of the things that Emma did that let you know all of those things, that confirmed all of those things? What would that look like? And knowing it would look different for different couples, but what's one thing that it looked like in particular?
So I have points where I'm a fairly introverted, fairly pensive, extremely pensive individual, and I take a lot of I find joy in small things, right? And part of what I love about life is appreciating very seemingly insignificant or seemingly small things, and Emma, whenever I would explain those things to her, just have a moment of just sharing my heart about something that just kind of struck me, she would always engage and she would light up with me. Like when I would share about the deepness of like something about Christ that struck me specifically, about like the depth of like the mercy I was feeling and the grace I was feeling at a particular point, she would sit with me in that moment. She's exceptionally, so for me, being a person who's very, like I said, very introverted, very pensive, I'm extremely, I would consider myself an intellectual. I have a lot of vulnerability in those moments, and she has an exceptionally good way of, with me, holding my emotions with her, as well. And that speaks a lot to like her emotional intelligence as well, which I believe I wasn't given a lot in the emotional intelligence. I was on the IQ side a little bit more, but because of that, that's how she makes me feel, not just loved, but like, but treasured. Yeah. Like the bottom of me, treasured. Yeah. Not just embraced, but like held.
And that, as you describe it, it feels very safe.
Yes. It feels the most safe that I can be. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. We will be back after this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more with Chris and Emma just about how they are approaching building strong marital relationship and a strong family relationship as they move forward in their lives, of course, having children, the whole 9 yards. We'll be right back with Chris and Emma on the Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show. Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show. We are talking today with newlyweds, almost newlyweds. 6 months is still newlyweds, right?
Yeah.
Chris and Emma Donaldson. And before we went to the break, Chris had talked to us a little bit about the experience of pre-engagement counseling that he and Emma engaged in, and gave us his perspective just around the decision to marry, knowing that there was a level of safety that he experienced with Emma, which is something that's so important in building a strong relationship, knowing that there is safety in your spouse. Emma, talk to us a little bit about your experience in the pre-engagement counseling that you went through and what that was like
Absolutely.
for you.
Yeah. So for me, like Chris had said, we'd been friends for years. We knew each other really well. And that was a little bit challenging when we started dating because my idea up until that point was you date to get to know someone. And I already knew Chris intimately. Knew him really well. He knew me really well. And so I wasn't really sure what that would look like as far as wondering and figuring out, is this someone that I'm supposed to be married to and start a life with? And so pre-engagement therapy for me, it really was the figuring out and deciding if. I know he said that he had already made that decision. I hadn't. I was still figuring out what that would look like and if it made sense. And because I knew Chris really well, my mom actually told me this. She said, Emma, you know Chris really well. That's not the issue. Can you see him being a husband? Can you see him being a father? Is he someone that you want your children to look up to and be like? And so that's something that I really started to think about and think through as we went through that process of pre-engagement therapy and discuss with our therapist. And a conclusion that I came to is Chris has a gentleness about him. It's a very quiet strength, and I respond really well to that. My dad would joke and say that my independence is a lot. I've always been strong-willed, and so I can be a lot. And some men find that intimidating, and I've experienced quite a lot of that, and Chris has never been intimidated by me. He's never shamed me for being the way that I am. He lets me do my thing, but he's quick to course correct when I need it, and I respond well to that because it's a quiet strength. It's gentle and it's secure. Knowing that he's secure makes me feel secure, and so I would say that was very powerful for me.
Yeah. And again, and this is coming up as such a key in being able to build a strong relationship. Knowledge of self before you even get to that point where you're talking about getting married, and really beginning to understand, who am I, and what are the things about me, what are the strengths that I have, and what are the weaknesses that coincide that I bring to the table, and how does this person potentially balance me out in a really nice way that helps me be the best me that I can potentially be, right? Thinking about that even before you get into the relationship of marriage and get engaged is huge. That is not often a conversation that folks will have. Those are conversations they might have when they come to us for therapy
Right.
years down the road, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So then it almost sounds like even before you got engaged, that there was, your mom and your dad encouraged a level of vision casting even then. Can you see him as a husband? Can you see him as a father and someone that you want your children to look up to? Right? That's kind of vision casting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you might not have called it that at that time, but really that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's looking into the future and imagining, what would it be like in practical terms with this individual, and can I see that? Is that what I might want? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, the uniqueness about you guys' relationship is that not many relationships start out as friends. We usually start right off the bat with dating.
Because of either a sexual attraction,
Right.
right? I'm really attracted to this person physically, visually and physically.
Right.
Right? And so that friendship piece is not there yet, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Let me ask the both of you. Do you feel that being friends before you started dating was an advantage or a hindrance when you decided to start dating?
I think in the short term, it made it harder. I would say in the first 3 months, it made it harder for sure. because there was an expectation, at least on my side, right? There was an expectation that this would be similar to how I would be feeling in the first 3 months of dating somebody else, or exactly what you said, right? That there would have been like this like spark of sexual attraction, and then you engage, and then you kind of ride that wave until you build up the other portion of the relationship that kind of takes over, and and that wasn't the case for us. And so there were several times we had conversations while we were dating about like, I feel like I should be feeling this way and I don't, and it's bothering me. I don't know. I'm not sure if it means something's wrong. But I expected to feel this way, and I expected to be head over heels, right? And that's not the way it went.
Right.
But in the long term, much healthier. Much healthier.
And I will say with what Chris just said, the fact that we were able to have that conversation, I feel like I should be feeling this way and I don't. That was proof to me that this was a good thing, that we were that close already to where we could talk about those things. Because I remember watching other couples that I knew in previous relationships and seeing them be that vulnerable and wondering, how do you access that? How do you access that in another person? And Chris and I already had it.
Right.
And so I saw that as a great strength.
Yeah, definitely. Because many relationships don't ask those questions. They always keep them to themselves. They don't explore their true feelings, assuming that the other would pick up on what's going on with them. And that's not the case at all. We have to be verbal with our feelings and how we feel about what's going on with different situations in order for it to thrive. And that's a good thing, because you guys were able to do that off the bat.
Well, there's one other interesting piece of trivia here. So Emma was actually my first girlfriend.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. She. I did not date. I did not have a girlfriend prior to Emma. So I started dating Emma when I was, how old was I? 25.
Yep.
Yeah, 25.
Wow.
So there was a whole bunch of learning that had to happen for me.
Exactly.
And so like you grow up, and this is, I'm not sure how this is relevant to the show, but we were talking anyway, right? So I had this expectation that was fed, this expectation about how a relationship would go that was fed from everything but experience.
Right.
And was fed from what I had seen other people do, from what I'd seen in media, like movies. Don't discount the impact of movies on what you think your relationship should look like, right?
Right.
Social media, Facebook, was fed from what I had been told by my parents things should look like. And again, so there was all this reality check that happened in the first 3 months for me. And I think the same thing happened for Emma, but in a totally different way.
Yeah, I think that going back to your original question of was an advantage or a disadvantage just being friends and having known each other for so long before we started dating, my expectation was that we would just know. We would just know if we were supposed to be married or not. And that wasn't the case. It circles back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, of it being an intentional decision and it being something based on wisdom, right? Not an emotion, not circumstantial evidence, but a true decision.
It's interesting because you described traditionally how folks get together because of an attraction. And you said they ride that wave until the other part kicks in, and the other part you were talking about was the friendship part of it, right? And time to blossom. And the reality is that it is very often the case that part never actually blossoms.
Right.
That riding that wave of the emotion of love
Yes.
never really translates itself into automatically that friendship piece having had time to develop, right? And folks don't really recognize it.
Right.
Until later on. And then they have to tackle it later on, potentially. And so it's interesting how yours evolved with that friendship piece first, and then the rest of it coming a little bit later. Well, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, I do want to get to the story of your mentorship and how you met your mentors and what role that played in how your relationship is evolving over time. We'll be back in a moment on the Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show.
Do you want peace in your family relationships instead of conflict? Do you want a safe, loving marriage instead of one that is failing? Are you troubled about what's happening with your children and need help for them? At Legacy Changers Counseling Centers, the goal is to strengthen individuals and families with cutting-edge emotional and mental health interventions. The exceptionally trained counselors at Legacy provide the specialized guidance you need in a safe environment of belonging so that you can make the life changes you and your loved ones need. Get real help for your emotional and relationship needs. Call today at 404-334-7575. That's 404-334-7575. You can also find us on the web at legacychangerscounseling.com. Call now and transform your life today. 404-334-7575 or legacychangerscounseling.com.
I'm here with newlyweds Chris and Emma Donaldson, and we're talking about their journey to marriage, and then post-marriage is where we've pretty much left off, not post-marriage, but post-engagement, and moving into marriage, and kind of what have been the contributors to the strength in their relationship. And we got to the point where we were going to move into mentorship. You talked about what you did in your pre-engagement counseling. Of course, you did your premarital counseling, and then you did some mentorship. Talk about that and what that was like.
Absolutely.
And why you did it.
Yeah, so it was, I will be honest, it was not a decision, oh, we need a mentor, let's go find one. We got around a couple that was very attractive to us and had the things that we wanted. And so because of that, we decided to follow them. So I was introduced to a business opportunity in 2017. And I met a couple, Josh and Honey Bray. And I remember meeting Josh and thinking, he's a little different. And so I just started to watch him. And I got to know him, and I got to know his wife, Honey, and their 5 children, beautiful kids. And
how was he different?
He spoke differently. He engaged people differently, very intentional, and I could tell it was a learned skill. It was something that he had practiced in a good way. And so I thought, why did he learn this skill, number one? And number two, how did he get so good at it? It intrigued me. Incredibly wise. And he spoke of principles that govern success. And so while he was referring to the business, he was also referring to his family. He was also referring to his relationship with God. And so all of these things were just very appealing to me. And then I got to know his wife, Honey, and I mean, I've had a girl crush on Honey since I met her. She is gorgeous, inside and out, very confident, and she's just someone that I admire and want to be like. Great mother. Their kids are evidence that they really do live out what they teach others. And so I was just drawn to them, and I began to have this kind of childlike faith and just follow them around and trust them. And Chris saw that. And I didn't do a good job of explaining why I was doing what I was doing. I didn't even really know why I was doing it, but it just made sense to me, so I kept doing it. And I went on a trip with them. I went to Vegas and shared a room with them and another couple in our business that mentor us, Brian and Ashley Anderson. And I shared a room with the 4 of them, and we just had the best time. And I remember sneaking out of the meeting and Chris calling me and saying, "Where are you? What are you doing?" We were dating at the time. I said, I'm in Vegas." "What? Why?" "Who are these people?" And even watching how Josh and Honey and Brian and Ashley navigated that as well. They said, "Well, Chris just needs to get to know us, and that's fine. We'll all just go out to dinner." So watching how intentional they were in the relationship really was different to me. exciting. And so that was our business relationship, right? And then once I decided that this was something that I wanted to pursue, Chris needed to learn more about it because we knew that our trajectory was close to marriage. And so he began to engage Josh more to get to know him better. And I'll let you tell the story from there if you want.
So I met with Josh. So at one point, I mean, there are lots of points in this story. Most of them do not reflect well upon me.
Those are the parts we want to hear.
Yeah, of course they are. So Emma got involved in this. Emma got involved with these folks. Maybe April, May of 2017, and I was not supportive at all. We were dating. We were dating at the time. This is this thing that Emma was doing, and that was just I figured it would be a blip on the radar. I wasn't really thinking about the future. I just wasn't really worried about it. I wasn't thinking it's gonna be a big deal. She continued to spend time with these folks. Continue to invest time and money into this, into these folks, into what she was doing, and was loving it. Was loving it. And I remember very clearly that I had a dream one night, or a vision one night, where I just pictured very clearly that Emma was just exceptionally successful in this particular area, like with this particular opportunity. She's extremely successful, and I felt so ashamed because I was not supporting her, like I was not on her team, like I was not backing her. And of all the people in the world, I should be the one who's like her biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
Right.
I should be the one who's who wants not just like hoping that she's successful, but like is trying to help her be successful.
Yeah.
Is supporting her to be successful, is helping her achieve whatever she wants to achieve. And so I decided at that point that I was going to go meet with Josh. So Josh is in his late 30s. We met at a coffee shop up and coming, and I said, "All right, Josh, what are y'all doing? And what is this whole thing?" And Josh, very calmly, not trying to impress me, just explained what was going on and how it worked. And I had 100 different questions because I'm a consultant and I think I'm pretty smart. And that began probably an 8 or 9 month transition for me, where I, fought, tooth and nail to try to figure out why she shouldn't be doing this, why she shouldn't be. And over that period, I was slowly being, mentored without me knowing it by Josh and by this other gentleman named Ryan. Because in that process, I found very clearly that the goal of a mentor is to tell you things is to help you understand what is important and what is not important. And unfortunately for me, I had or at least my understanding of what was important in life in terms of success was actually not important. Like there are a lot of fundamental pillars of success in business that I had, and merit in relationships that I just did not prioritize, that should be prioritized, and things that I didn't even know existed that should have been top of my list. And so throughout this process of me trying to like pin down the problems with what she was doing, and giving kind of lip service to helping her, which was another issue during that time. I would verbally be telling her that I'm proud of her and I want her to be successful, and then and then not really back that up with actions. So there was a time. So I say all that. I was driving home from Chattanooga in May of 2017. Beginning of May of 2017, into May 2017. 2018, this past year. And Josh called me and said, "Hey, there's a conference in Dallas. There's be some big time, some people there. They have a lot of information that you need to hear about how to be successful, about how Emma's going to be successful in this business, and then how to be successful in life. And you need to be there. This is a Thursday, and the conference started on Friday. I'm driving home from Chattanooga. I'm not even in Atlanta." And I said, Josh, I don't know. I gave like the regular non-committal, like millennial
Right.
answer. Like, I don't know. I'll try, but like, I don't know. We'll see what I can do to move
Right.
things around with no intention of, with really no intention of doing anything. And Josh said deadpan to me, he said, Chris, for your marriage, you need to be in Dallas. And he was right. He was 100% right. And so I thought about that. And I had a wedding the next day that I was going to, one of my good buddies. We'd actually both committed to go, and then she decided to go to this conference, and I was already pretty hot about that. That she wasn't going to be there with me, and I was going to go by myself.
It's that independence showing up again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, she realized that what she was doing was more important than this wedding, and not because we don't value these individuals who are getting married, but just because that's you prioritize things you want, right?
Right.
Just because you pick something first doesn't mean that's what you need to do.
Right.
Anyway, so through a lot of debate, and I ended up going to Dallas. I bought a ticket on the ride home. I got a ticket on the ride home and was in Dallas the next day. I had to move some things around, and I got there late because I had to work, but I was in Dallas, and that one weekend changed the trajectory, I think, of a lot of parts of our marriage. For sure. And it's not because I went to Dallas, right? It's not because I went there or I did this particular thing. It was because, I think, at that point, I decided to prioritize what Emma's dreams over what I wanted, and to support her.
And that's something that, because we had this drop in the water with mentorship, it was a ripple effect of other areas of our life. It's something that we would not have experienced had we not had this couple infiltrate. And I will say it's a choice to allow that. Like Josh and Honey did not choose us, we chose them. And we have this opportunity to allow them to speak into our lives so that we can grow. And it's there if we want it, and if we choose not to have it, then that's on us. And so it requires a certain level of maturity and humility to say, okay, all right, I'm willing to hear. I'm willing to open myself up into all these areas of my life so that you can speak into them and so that I can grow. And so we asked Josh to actually officiate our wedding. We spent time with him and Honey, and we spent time with their children, and we asked him to marry us. And that was also a really big turning point for us in our relationship with them, because yes, they're business partners, but now they're going to be speaking into this other area of our life. And we were really excited and honored that they agreed to do that for us. So we're very close with them and talk to them on a daily basis. And it's been probably the most valuable thing we could have done apart from seeking after the Lord, of course. It's been the most valuable thing that we could have done for our marriage.
That's amazing.
And we mentioned this in the break, but before me choosing to go to Dallas, Josh was hesitant about whether or not he should marry us. Like he had some pause about it. Probably not just a little bit. I mean, you can probably talk more to that, but I've only heard the bits and pieces that kind of remind me of how much of a moron it was. But he was hesitant about, because like I said, it's not the act of the doing the thing, right? It's the mindset around it. Is he being me, bought in enough to support you in what you want?
Yeah. Are you bought in enough to the relationship and the needs that Emma had? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we got to Dallas, when we got there, she said over and over and over again that she could not imagine, in retrospect, right, and even in the moment, she could not imagine being there by herself without me being there.
Yeah.
Wow.
That having her husband there as a team was extremely necessary.
She needed you
Yes.
to prioritize her
Yes.
and support her.
Exactly right.
All right. And we'll talk more when we come back from this break. You're listening to the Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show. We're talking today with Emma and Chris Donaldson, and we have been listening to their journey before marriage and after getting married, and some of the things that they have intentionally been putting in place in order to ensure the strength of their relationship. And when we left before the break, Emma and Chris had been telling us a story of their mentorship relationship, how it evolved and how it impacted just all that they decided and how they have decided to engage in their relationship. And so I wanted to let you talk a little bit more about your mentorship relationship if you wanted to, but I also wanted to talk more about what you did in terms of vision casting and what that has been like for you, what impact that's had on your relationship as well, and why you decided to do that.
Well, through mentorship, and Josh and Honey are a good 10 years older than us. Yep, about 10 years older than us. So they talk a lot about where they were when they were our age, and a lot about where they are now and where their peers are now. Something that we picked up on pretty quickly is that people our age do not think that far into the future. They're very present mind focused. So I'm 27 years old, beginning in my fresh in my career as a therapist. People that did not go to graduate school that are our age are kind of in the beginning of their peak, right? So they don't have any kids. They're what we would call a DINK, a dual income, no kid family, right? So they've got all this expendable...
Dual income, no kid family.
Yes.
I need to write that down. I've never heard that before.
You're a millennial fact for the day.
Yes.
So they have got this expendable income, right? They're traveling, living in nicer homes, things like that. And we've noticed that a lot of people our age do that. And something that Josh said is, you don't want to be like everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. There's this 2% of the population that does something completely different, and their lives look completely different in a good way, ongoing. Mm-hmm. So that was appealing to us. It was attractive to us. Mm-hmm. So we thought, okay, maybe it's not important to travel a ton while we don't have kids and we have this dual income. Maybe we need to do things differently and make a shift. And so while we've made those decisions, a lot of it has been, where do we see ourselves? What is our vision the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Chris and I both feel that there's a calling on our lives to give a lot. And in order to give a lot, you have to have a lot to give. Now, that is a mindset, first and foremost. So it's not about how much you have, it's about your willingness, right? So all of what we have is God's, and He just gives us a portion back, right? If that's our mindset, then that's healthy. And also it takes resources. We believe in multiple streams of income. We believe in being good stewards of what we've been given so that we can bless others. And so we knew that in order to do that, our lives needed to look different now. And we had to be intentional about how we use our time and our resources now. And we can't do that if we're not thinking about our future. We can't do that if we're not thinking about the vision that we have and the vision that God has given us for our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would say for sure there's two main two main milestones or characterizations of what we want our future to look like that we've discussed and have discussed when we were dating and when we were engaged in marriage. One is, as you said, to be able to give extravagantly, and to for instance, for me, I've always wanted to be able to just write a check and pay for someone's rent.
Yeah.
Like like a waitress at a store that I go to, or a shop I go to all the time. like she's having a problem or he's having a problem or whatever, just to be able to cover the rent for the month as a tip, or to be able to pay for someone's tuition for a semester. I personally would love to be able to have a fund later down the road that I can just give out of that, just a large pool of money. But to do all of those things, right, you can't be, I'm not sure this is politically correct or not, but you can't be making $50,000 a year and pay for someone's tuition out of pocket. Like
No.
you just can't, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Like to give extravagantly, we believe that God has given us the capacity and the grind to be successful in all facets of life. Part of that is financially. And as a part of that, we want to be able to use that to bless as many people as we can extravagantly, in a way that people, in a way that we don't think we can, or in a way we can't right now. Additionally, we have a vision for our family that our house will always be safe for anyone. That is something that we've been talking about since before we even started mentorship, right? Is that anything that happens, you can always come home. Like you can always come to our house. It will always be safe. If the world is imploding, like you can always come over, and there will always be food, and you will always be welcome, and yet you're always just safe in our home. And we both, and the key thing there is like we both align with that. Like that's not her. One of those is not hers, and one of those is not mine. Both of them are not mine, and both of them are not hers. We both collectively arrived at those destinations, and we both deeply desire those things for our marriage, or to accomplish those things through our marriage. And so we can always come back to that as in any decision we make. Is it taking us closer to our goals? If it's not, then we have to reassess.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I heard you say that you collectively came to these particular visions for your relationship. What was that process? If someone asked you, tell us briefly how my husband and I can vision cast to be able to come to whatever conclusions or visions we see for our relationship, what would you tell them? How would you tell them to do it?
I would tell them first to find a mentor, because when you are watching another couple or person live out what you want, it becomes a great catalog for you to decide, I like this. This makes sense to me. This is something that I find attractive. This is something that I want to embody for my family. So first and foremost, to find a mentor. And second, to talk about it with your spouse, to engage in those conversations. Chris and I, that's one of my favorite things that we do. We just love talking with each other. We've done that since we were friends, just hours on end. And something that we love to talk about is our vision for our family, for our marriage, where we see ourselves. And so you can never talk about that stuff enough, I believe. And it'll evolve and grow. So it might start with this vision. One of our first visions was that our home will always be safe. It'll be a place where anyone can come over, whether it's our kids' friends or our personal friends, whomever, they're welcome in our home. It started with that, and then it kind of grew to, and our home is also an extension, or rather, our resources are an extension of our home. And so now we want our resources to be available for anyone that needs it, right? And so it grows and evolves, and that's something that, for us, takes place through talking and being intentional. Mm-hmm. And that is something that changed right after we got married, and especially through our several businesses that we have. We also have a rental property as well. Right after we got married, it became very easy to just cut to business. Did you pay this? Did you move that over? Did you talk to this person? And very quickly, it went from those great conversations to only managing those tasks in the household. And so you have to be intentional about those as well. You can't wait for them to happen. You have to set aside time. That's also something that my mom encouraged me to do, was to make sure, whether we were in the car or wherever, to set aside designated time to only talk about things that fueled our relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Intentionality.
Yeah.
It goes back to when we talked about at the very beginning of the show, that relationships are work.
Yes.
They don't just happen. Strong relationships, strong marriages, strong families are intentionally built. Intentionally built. And the foundation for that is intentionally built as well. And so it sounds like you guys really had, not only before your mentorship experience, just really solid approaches to learning yourself and learning what you needed in relationship and being able to talk through that and see how it would work between you. And then afterward, having that mentorship relationship that even just further expanded your ability to be able to know what to do. And I think the thing to encourage people is it's not automatic that you should know what to do to build a strong marriage and to build strong family relationships. I think sometimes people think that, well, I grew up in a family, so I should know, or it should just come to me afterward, or I can read it in a book, although reading helps. But understanding what the dynamics are and what it really takes is a learned process. And some people learn it through trial and error, and it takes a long time, and it hurts a whole lot, and sometimes they don't make it through. And sometimes it's learned from directly engaging, like you have, with people who have been successful at it and watching their model and following their pattern and talking and exploring and getting therapy and getting counseling and letting other people speak into your life, letting the right people speak into your life. Yeah.
And I don't, just for the record, I do not want to understate the amount of the difficulty in getting it right.
Yeah.
Right, overall. Like it has been a trend upward. It has not been a straight line upward for us. It has been as I have been mentored, I have made mistakes all along the way. There's a lot of things that this process has flushed out that are very hard to confront and probably even more difficult to deal with. But that process can only, that healing or that remediation of that is only done once you identify it and then once you try to fix it, right? And a lot of these, we'll call them vices, right? And things that, from a relationship perspective, I'm not very good at. It has been work. It's been painful. But we're trending upwards because I think largely because there are guides, there are guide wires helping us go that way in the form of Josh and Honey, in the form of a little bit more extensively Frank and Cindy.
It's another couple that we work with.
Yeah. So I can't imagine doing this process without mentorship. Without, in particular for me, I can't imagine doing this without Josh to keep, to be in some way under authority to Josh. I really do think that I'll make a bold statement here, right? But I think any man not under authority in some way is a wild card. Like he's a rogue. He's doing his own thing, and that's not good. It can't end well. Like men need to be, or at least I need to be under authority, someone's authority.
Well, everybody needs accountability.
Right.
Everybody needs accountability. And when there is no accountability and there is struggle and lack of direction and all of that, well, yeah, the road gets tremendously harder to navigate.
Yeah.
When there's no accountability, when there's nobody speaking into you, when there's nobody calling you on your stuff.
Bingo.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why a lot of folks will struggle when there's not, and or when the wrong people are holding them accountable in the wrong ways.
Yes.
The other thing that, just one real quick bit,
Yeah.
the other thing that we've been taught is you have to have somebody who is where you want to be that is speaking in. Josh makes the equation all the time of you can't ask somebody who's only made $200,000 a year how to make $1 million. He doesn't know. He would be doing it. Like in the same way that you can't ask somebody who has, you can't ask somebody to speak into your life about your marriage, about how you're conducting your relationships, who doesn't also do that. Yeah. And Josh is mentored by Frank, and Frank is, it has been for 10 years. And so there's this, it's very incredible to see this picture of, and Frank was mentored by somebody else for, 30 plus years, right? So there's this waterfall of wisdom that I'm able to tap into and start drinking from. And like that is how, and that's how I know I'm not assured success, but that's how I know I have a good chance.
Yeah.
Because there's this, there's a pattern, right? There's a system that we're following of proven, taking people to where they want to go in terms of their marriages and their relationships and success.
Yeah.
Just to touch on your point of listening to the wrong people, a lot of people our age love podcasts. I love podcasts. They're great. A podcast is not a mentor. It's just not. And there's, like you said, the accountability. You don't get that with a podcast.
Yeah.
You don't get that with a book.
Yeah.
And there's no investment that person has made into your life the way that a mentor invests into your life personally, spiritually, financially, whatever it might be. And so I cannot stress that enough. Resources are great, podcasts are great, lectures are great, but they don't substitute for the human interaction that you get when you ask someone to mentor you and step into your life and take that role.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Thanks.
I was going to say that it reminded me of something else that Josh and Frank always say, that mentorship is taken, it's never given. Meaning that if you want to be mentored, you pursue your mentor. Like you serve your mentor, you want it, you desire it, you go take it. And they are accommodating to like what to that potentially, right? They may say no. But hopefully they're accommodating and they say, yes, I'll allow you to be mentored by me. Because Josh has never once tried to make me like him. Frank has never tried to make me like him either. And I think that's extremely important. They're, as wonderful as Josh and Frank are, they have never taken the perspective on trying to be my friend. Because they are not equating themselves. They've never equated themselves with me. And I've always pursued, because of that, I will not stop pursuing them, because we are not the same. And when it comes to podcasts and books and all these leadership, everything, all these resources that are, extremely low fidelity investments for people in terms of relationship or effort, right? You're not pursuing. It's not hard. One thing we are learning currently is that to get anywhere worthwhile going, it's painful.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And if it's not painful, you're probably not going anywhere that you want to go.
Write that down. Write that down. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show.
Do you want peace in your family relationships instead of conflict? Do you want a safe, loving marriage instead of one that is failing? Are you troubled about what's happening with your children and need help for them? At Legacy Changers Counseling Centers, the goal is to strengthen individuals and families with cutting-edge emotional and mental health interventions. The exceptionally trained counselors at Legacy provide the specialized guidance you need in a safe environment of belonging so that you can make the life changes you and your loved ones need. Get real help for your emotional and relationship needs. Call today at 404-334-7575. That's 404-334-7575. You can also find us on the web at legacychangerscounseling.com. Call now and transform your life today. 404-334-7575 or legacychangerscounseling.com.
Chris and Emma, I want to talk a little bit more around, we started the show saying that we're going to talk some about emotional intelligence. And then as we were talking, we've gotten to so many other things and haven't quite gotten there. And so I want to get there. One of the things that strikes me as we talk is, Chris, you talk about being an introvert
Oh yes, severely.
severely, and Emma, you do not talk about being an introvert, and in fact, you appear to be very much an extrovert.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, and so, I've seen throughout the years that can turn out very differently for different people. In some situations, I've seen introvert-extrovert relationships be a good balancing relationship. In other times, I've seen extroverts like roll right over the introvert in the relationship completely and to just kind of destroy them, and permutations in between those two extremes. So emotional intelligence, I would imagine, plays a huge part in that outcome. Talk to us a little bit about what that introvert-extrovert balance looks like for you, how you've kind of navigated that in your relationship, and how that's just evolved for you.
Absolutely. So, just to give definition here for those who may not know, an extrovert is someone who gains energy by being around other people. They need it. And an introvert is the exact opposite. They need that alone time in order to recharge. So it doesn't mean that an extrovert is always super social or that an introvert is always not social, right? So Chris, even though he is very much an introvert, he can be social. It just costs him. Whereas being social for me is actually input into my system. That being said, being an extrovert and being very extroverted at that, I have noticed throughout my life that I can drain an introvert pretty quick. And there's family members that I have that can attest to that. When I was younger, my mom would literally say, Emma, I just need 20 minutes in the car with you just not talking. I just need some silence, right? So I've learned somewhat how to navigate this, but it's always been a little challenging, particularly in a dating relationship. And it has not gone well at times where I have like you said, steamrolled the introvert and not created space. And so there's been an insecurity that I've had where I'm like, am I saying too much? Am I emoting too much? Am I doing too much? How can I kind of walk on eggshells or be mindful or create space for this person? What I love about my marriage, what I love about Chris is that it's never been that way. I don't have to change what I'm doing in order to be in relationship with him. He is very good about advocating for his own needs. So when he needs quiet time and space, he makes that happen. But he allows me to be me and is not threatened by that and does not feel like he has to walk on eggshells in order to be who he is. So it's really turned out to be a beautiful mix. I wish I could say I had these great tools to know how, but I didn't. To be honest with you, it's just the way that our relationship has turned out. And so I'm really thankful for that I can just be myself.
Yeah. So you have required me to emote on a regular basis. Which sounds, as funny as that sounds, it's it's not something that I really, if given the option, I would do. Right? I would exist mostly cerebrally, and have all the emotions and thoughts and everything in my head.
Yeah.
And be quiet and be relatively quiet. Or just enjoy being around. I do enjoy being around people. I just don't. Engaging with people is draining. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
This past Friday night we were over at some people's house, and I remember I walked in, and everything was fine until I walked in, and I just immediately was like, I don't have like the fuel to do this right now. I don't have the ability to like engage with anybody. I'm just gonna sit here, and I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to just sit there, because I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm happy to listen and watch and just be in it, but not engaged with it, or amongst it rather. As part of our marriage, I remember I make a conscious effort to tell him when I need time. For instance, when we got married on our honeymoon, probably the week before, 2 weeks before our honeymoon, I had a very frank conversation with Emma, and she had all these plans about we're going to do all these things, and I said, babe, that's great. We can do all those things. I need 2 hours of reading by the pool or 2 hours of just sitting and eating quietly, drinking coffee, doing something that's just quiet for me, so I can do everything else that you want to do. And I think, and that's, I still do that. Like, we still do that on a regular basis. Like, I'll let you know when I need to recharge, and you've been so accommodating to that. Even when there's times where our needs are at odds with each other. Like, you need to engage and I need to not. You have been accommodating to me, and we've been able to find good compromise.
And that stems from just a security that we have in our relationship. It would be very easy for me to perceive that as rejection.
Yeah.
And I certainly have in the past with other relationships, but I love Chris, and his well-being is vital to me. It's very important to me. And so there's this shift of, if he needs alone time, that's more valuable to me than me gaining this social interaction.
And likewise, there are times where I'm done, but I'll still sit and we'll still talk and engage. And it's not tit for tat. There's not a debt incurred. It's just, I want to take care of you. Right. And you want to take care of me.
Yeah.
And that mutual, that desire for each of us to both be successful individually, is, I think, how we make it work.
So, sounds like active listening and communication is monumental in you guys' relationship.
Yeah, which is interesting because for most people, like I said it during the break, I don't know what EQ really stands for or means. I'm pretty sure if it was on a spectrum, I'd have very little of it. Or I'm not sure if it's, I don't know. But I'm very sensitive to Emma in terms of her emotions and like what things are bothering her. At least I try to be. I actively tune my radio station to what she's giving off. It's not a passive thing. Or I think it's a bit more passive for you. Like, that happens naturally for you. For people. It's not natural for me. Because for lack of a better word, sometimes I just don't care. So that being said, so it's an active thing for me, and I do try to tune into to her, and try to accommodate and meet any of those needs or what is going on with her, or be active in talking about what she's feeling.
Yeah, and so you guys are talking really clearly. This is a perfect example of the different components of emotional intelligence. You're talking about your personal competence, your awareness of yourselves, and how you manage yourself once you have that awareness, right? And that's a huge part of being able to engage well in a relationship. I mean, just being aware of, this is what I need, and they're very different. And then that ability to understand not just what I need, but what the other person needs, and manage that social relationship piece, that interactional piece, right? That's huge. That is a big part of work that individuals in relationships can do. That first personal competence piece of emotional intelligence, and being really aware of who am I, what do I need, why do I need it, right? And not taking personally when the other person says, this is who I am, this is what I need, and here's why I need it.
Yes.
And even though it's different from what I need, it's not about me. You need what you need. And so that's a huge part of the work that people can do to build strong relationship and to build strong marriages.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, what I'm hearing also is that within you guys' relationship is that you don't depend on the other for peace within yourselves. You look for your happiness within yourselves, and then you radiate it out to each other. Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit more.
For me, Chris highlights happiness, cannot be the source of my happiness. He just can't. And independent of him, I will say I learned that the hard way, through trial and error, through past relationships, of wanting a person to be this object, right, of my affection. and source of happiness. And I find that so much. It's just, I think a lot of times it's innate, it's human nature. And when you give someone that much power over you, it becomes toxic very quickly. And it may not be the person that's toxic, it might be the relationship and the way you relate to one another in the dysfunction. I'm very thankful that Chris has never pretended to be my knight in shining armor. He's very honest with me about everything, his strengths and his flaws, and I see him for who he is, and he's absolutely beautiful to me, truly. And that being said, I know what I need to have inner peace, my own personal worth. And so it's this interdependence that comes together, and not always perfectly. Most times it's messy, but it's true and it's honest and it's pure.
Love yourself first.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that is something that I've been learning, being reiterated in my, for the past probably 6 months with my own individual therapist, is this idea of being connected but separate, of us having connection and being actively connected, but for each of us to both be independent for our own emotions.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not responsible for her emotions.
Right.
And I'm not responsible for taking care of her emotions. Just in the same way that she's not responsible for me taking care of my emotions. Like, that is my own, that is my own thing to care for.
To regulate.
To regulate, yeah.
Right.
And that has been a hard thing to learn for me.
Yeah.
Because again, this is like I said, this is my first relationship, in every single way, and. That self-preservation. There's a in particular in the Christian church, right? As you grow up, there's this, it's just hammered into you of like this self-sacrifice and laying down as the man and all these different things. And it can go to a point to where you are no longer caring for yourself, into a point, and you handicap your ability to take care of your wife in doing so. And that is something I've been trying to figure out how to do, and still am, right? It's still the part of our marriage that I'm actively trying to sort through, of how to stay healthy enough independently so I can shoulder the marriage, so our relationship can also be healthy.
So tell us about your commitment to the process.
This is a daily struggle for me. And this is something I admire about Chris greatly. He's very disciplined. I'm ambitious. I lack discipline. And so while I love to take on all of the things, committing to that process, to making sure those things get done and see them through, is very challenging for me. Very impatient.
Yeah.
And so it's something that he's done really well and modeled for me, and it's something that I admire about him and strive to be, honestly, of doing those daily disciplines. And that's a principle, right? So it carries over from your marriage to your business to your finances. It's not something that you can have in one area and not in the other. It's a person issue. It's a heart issue. So commitment to the process for me is, honestly, right now, it looks like being honest with myself and with my mentors of the areas that I need help, the areas that are challenging for me, and to do something about them. Because you can have epiphanies all day long, and then you get analysis paralysis and you don't do anything, right? And that's tempting for those of us who have higher ed, because we like to sit around and talk all day long.
All the time.
Yeah.
And then we don't do anything. And so we have this saying in our business, let action be your coach. Do it, right? And learn from it. It's okay to fail if you're trying. But if you're not trying, then you've already quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess the final thing that I want to see if we can't talk through is you have 2 books that you've recommended. One is, let's see, The Go-Giver.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about The Go-Giver.
Frank and Josh say consistently.
Frank and Josh, your mentors.
Frank and Josh, my mentors,
Yeah.
consistently say that you have to learn the principles of success. Then you apply the principles, and what you do will be successful. But you have to learn the principles of success. And one of those key pillars that I never realized is that in order to be successful, and this applies in so many areas, is that if you help somebody else get what they want, if you help somebody get what they desire, what they want, and help other people be successful, you will end up being successful. But if you try to be successful independently on your own, if you put yourself first in terms, and this is not the golden rule stuff. This is fundamental business life principles of you go help as many people be successful, and you yourself will find yourself being successful as well. And the Go-Giver is a wonderful, I believe it's a wonderful allegory of that principle. It's so relatable in business and marriage. It's just relatable in a lot of different ways to drive that principle home and make it more tangible for people like me who have a really hard time understanding very simple things, because I try to make it a lot more complex than it has to be, and end up losing the whole message, the whole point of it. So love that book.
Awesome. I can't remember if my engineer told me I needed to go to a break. Did you tell me I need to go to break? I completely went over the break. I'm so sorry. Can we keep going, or you need me to take a break? All right, so let's keep going. And then the other book that you recommended was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's a different book.
Totally
Yes.
different.
That's a totally different book.
So
Why that book?
This one focuses more on financial literacy. And again, if we're operating under this belief that principles govern success, it teaches principles that you can use in all of the different areas of your life. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, written by Robert Kiyosaki, is a great story that contrasts his rich father from his poor father. Mm-hmm. And when you read that title, you think his rich dad must have had a PhD and all this education, right? And all of this training. And then his poor dad, must have been blue collar, and, we have these preconceived notions, and it's quite the opposite once you read the book.
Right.
And you learn that there's a lot of value in street smarts. And while education is absolutely great, phenomenal, there's something to be said for that entrepreneurial spirit and having multiple streams of income and not relying on someone else to dictate your success. And so it talks about the employee mindset versus the business owner's mindset versus the investor, and so on and so forth. And so for me personally, that was an area of weakness that I had. Even though I've had 7 years of school, post-high school, I knew nothing about business. I like business, like the idea of business, know nothing about business. And so this was a great book for me to start with, to really learn the basics of business acumen and financial literacy and begin to apply it to my life, as well as be able to catch up with Chris, because his parents did a phenomenal job teaching him financial education.
That's such an interesting point as well, which the book pretty highlights pretty quickly, is that you can be educated financially in a lot of different ways, but there is a mindset that truly successful people have that generally flies in the face of what everybody else is doing, even those people who are relatively successful. Like wealthy is different than making a lot of money. Wealthy is different than having a great paycheck.
Sure.
Frank always says, if you know how much money you're going to make next year, you're broke. Because you're capped off. You'll never like you're done. Like you're not going to make any more than what you know. And it's this idea of thinking unlimited and
Yeah.
expanding yourself from a employee mindset which values security, a small business owner mindset that values independence, but both of which lack freedom.
Right. Right. All right. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that and a little bit more about your business when we come back from the break. All right. We'll be right back with the Dr. Sonia Sutherland. Want to talk a little bit about your business, Emma. You both have talked about the mentorship that you've received, and initially at the beginning of the show, you said it came in part from a relationship that you had on the business side. So talk about your business, and because it's very interesting to me that it seems to be a business that's not just solely about business. It is a business apparently that values the building of the entire person and invests in the entire person, is what it seems like to me. So tell us, Emma, about your business.
Absolutely. So I was introduced to a health and wellness business in 2017. Was a part of a group that helped take, at the time, 5 nutraceutical products to market. And what's interesting about this business model is that it franchises through people. There is no brick and mortar. There is no store that you go to. And that's a shift that we're seeing in the marketplace today. People are no longer going to places, they're going online, right? And so the way this business works is using the vehicle of network marketing to be able to, or rather the channel of network marketing, to be able to give people everyday solutions that they need in a all natural and clean way. And so that's just a little bit about the business. But one of
Viseo.
Yes, Viseo is the name of the company, and Viseo is great. I love Viseo. What I truly value is the system that has come with this vehicle of Viseo, and the system is the mentorship, the financial education that we have that has been so powerful. For me personally, like I said, lots of years of school, never learned this stuff before. Was never exposed to the idea that people can become rich, but systems create wealth. And you might have a lot of money, but do you have any time? And if you don't have any time, you're really not wealthy, right? And if you're a small business owner, that's great. You have the independence. You don't have anyone telling you what to do. But, like Josh always says, walk away from your small business for 24 hours and tell me what's left of it.
Yeah.
And so learning those business principles has been very helpful for me personally. But again, as we've said, none of these areas happen independent of each other. They all work together. And so as you build a person, right, the person will then build their business. And so I have learned a lot just personally from being around Josh, from being around Honey, from being around Frank and Cindy, Brian, Ashley. And as I'm saying these names, these are just different people in our business who helped us launch the Atlanta market. It's something that I've never seen before, and I value it greatly because people don't talk about you enough. If you think about an employee, you are there to do a job, and once you do that job, that's it. You might get a Christmas bonus, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's it. You are just a part of the system. But at the end of the day, you don't really have anything to call your own. You're not building anything for you and for your family.
Yeah.
And so that's just a little bit about what I've gained personally from being involved in Viseo in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so I'll put some information up on this, about Viseo on our website.
Yeah,
And
that'd be
so
great.
folks that want more information on Viseo, you can visit drsoniasutherland.com /radio and get some more information on that. And then finally, excuse me, I want to wrap up and just kind of highlight what I think probably are the main points that you guys have talked about today that are just the main takeaways. And if there are others, you can just chime in, and as I go through these, you can chime in as well. But you said, or you pointed to, know yourself first and know what you bring to the table, both good and bad, right? And work on that yourself first, right? And then you said, once you do that, prioritize each other. Even as you have learned yourself and you bring your best self, once you do that, make each other still a priority and know that it's not just about you. You said, what did you say? Chris, you said something that was so awesome, the way that you said it, amongst other things. You said you didn't say, I want to make her happy. That wasn't it. You said, you alluded to, she's really important to me. And I wish I could remember exactly what you said. I wanted to write it down.
I have no idea what I said, but what I do want, and in relation to that, is I want to see Emma be prosperous. Like, I want to see her heart and like her fundamentally be prosperous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at the end of the day, that's what I desire.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can align with that, right? If I can keep that as like front of mind, like the rest of my actions being being directed through that filter will be healthy for us both and be healthy for our marriage.
And Emma, I think, believes the same way.
Absolutely.
From everything that I've heard
Yeah.
today. And that is a really good balance of knowing myself, what I bring to the table, maintaining my independence and who I am as an individual, and at the same time, prioritizing Emma, prioritizing Chris,
Right.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah, wanting her to flourish.
Yes. And then you said, find and allow mentorship, right? Not just find it, but allow those mentors to speak into your life in a positive way. Which suggests that you're listening and you're open to accountability and that you're recommending that people be open to that kind of accountability. And then you said, be on each other's team and back it up with action. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing like knowing somebody's got your back. You know, like for real, for real.
But not only that we are together as we move forward.
Yeah.
Like, we're not two parts of one. Like, we're not two individuals. Like like both running together, we are one team.
Yeah.
Like, we are like our like the money. We had this conversation in the car ride over the studio. The money that I make is not my money, and the money that she makes is not her money. Like, we make money, like we financially fund our family, and then we collectively direct those funds towards what we want our family to do.
Yeah. And it makes me think of what you said before, that you can do that because you feel safe with each other.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes when folks aren't able to do that, and we see, I have heard this all the time, women who tell their daughters, make sure you keep your little money on the side, right? Just in case,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes the world is not safe, or your relationship is not safe, so you have to have your safeguard, your little pot over on the side. And you are saying that your approach is what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours, what's ours is ours,
Yes.
pretty much. And it's safe for us to do that. And then the final thing that you said, and not necessarily in this order, but find peace and happiness in yourself. You're not responsible for each other's emotions and emotional choices and regulating your emotions. To be happy, you have to be happy in yourself. And then you bring that happiness to the relationship. And from
Right.
there it will flourish.
Yeah, and that's predicated. That is predicated on the foundational, principle that I want her fundamentally to flourish. Those two can't. I don't think those two can exist. That statement can't exist in a vacuum. That,
Yeah.
I want my happy. I need to take care of myself. It's with the caveat that, and most importantly, I want her to flourish.
Yeah.
And you teach someone how to love you better. And so how can you teach someone how to love you better if you don't know how to love yourself?
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Well said. That's a great note to end on. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for the intentionality that you bring to your relationship and being able to share that with us. It's been a pleasure to kind of listen to it
Yes.
and to witness it,
Yes.
right? And to be able to encourage it in other people.
Definitely.
Yeah. All
Definitely.
right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show. We'll be with you again next week at 10 a.m. We will see you then. Have a great week, everybody.